Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode. Christian and Jared here.
What's up, everyone?
So we've taken a couple weeks off, as you noticed, but we're finally back. Um, things are getting pretty busy around this time of year, so episodes are probably going to be slowing down from here on, but we're still going to try and find time as much as possible, and you guys are in luck because we found time today. So,
That's right.
Jared, I just remembered that last episode we forgot to do our Jeopardy question.
Yeah, that
So
is true. I see it right
I
here,
have it
too.
right here. I was just looking at it, made me think about it. Let's see. Okay, let's do. Oh, this is gonna be hard. All right. Before we start, um, Jared, are you? I don't remember going over this as much. Are you good at Jeopardy? I don't think you said
I told
you're
you,
pretty
I'm more
bad,
of a
aren't
Wheel
you?
of Fortune guy.
Oh yeah. Okay. Well, so we're gonna go over this question. And for those of you who might be wondering where we get our questions, I got a calendar for Christmas, and every day it has a Jeopardy question on it. So we're
But he's
going to
still
do.
dumb. It doesn't make him any smarter. It's just,
That's not true.
it's more of
That's
a
not true.
reflection of how
That's
dumb
not
you
true.
might
That's
be.
not true.
But yeah.
Okay. Let me ask a question. All right. The category is the Mark Twain Prize for American Humor for $1,200. The question: in 2018, this actress added the prize to her record 6 consecutive Emmys for a Best Actress in a comedy.
2016?
2018
18.
in a comedy. 6
Mm,
consecutive Emmys,
6
which would mean she'd
consecutive.
have to be famous from 2012 to 2018.
Oh, gosh. I know her. Well, I don't know. But the person I'm thinking of, I know her face. I can't remember her name.
Well, that's not helpful at all.
Yeah, I know it's not. It doesn't help me at all.
2018, man, that was a long time ago. 3 years, jeez.
Yeah, I know, man. Makes me
Oh,
feel
and
old.
these questions are actually for this year because it's a calendar.
Okay.
So it's not like we're looking at some outdated thing. Like this is a legitimate question. Um, who was in a bunch of comedies for 6 years? I'm just gonna say who is Jennifer Aniston because I feel like she was in a lot of comedies from that time period.
I don't think Jennifer. No, I don't think it was Jennifer.
Well, I don't know anybody else who could be in a comedy for in that period of time.
Gosh, dude, I can't even think of her name. Like I see she does. Who's the actress that did? Did you ever see Night School with
Oh,
Kevin Hart?
uh-huh.
What's her name?
I don't remember.
Gosh, this is
I
so
don't think
bad.
she was famous in
I don't. Well, I
2012
don't
though.
know. That's just the only person I can think of that's
All right,
like
well, it doesn't
in
matter because
comedies
I'm
like
going
that.
to answer the question. Are you ready?
You
Just give
think it's
someone.
who is
I'm just
Jennifer?
gonna say who is Jennifer Aniston. Just
I
say
think
somebody.
I could just go with that too.
Okay.
Well,
Okay, we're both going with
we're
who is
both
Jennifer
wrong,
Aniston.
but it's okay. Who is it?
Read the answer.
I don't even know who that is.
I don't know who it is either. Who is Julia Louise Dreyfus?
Well, if you
Never heard
guys
of
knew
her.
that, you're really really smart.
If you
I
guys knew
guess.
that, I'll give you $1.
I don't.
But
Yeah,
okay.
we did not
So
know that. That's stupid.
yeah,
Whatever.
it was a bad category for me. Anyway, so we're gonna get into our topic, and our topic is the Boulder shooting and mass shootings in general. So we're gonna kind of talk about the characteristics of the Boulder shooting. There's not a ton of information out yet, but we're going to talk about what we do know. We're actually going to use a CNN article for once. Jared, we're going to use a CNN article for once.
Yeah.
Fake news. So we're going to talk about that, and then we're going to talk about, just kind of the guy in general, and then talk about some of the things that are coming up on it. Gun control has been kind of placing a big has been a big deal within this thing. So we're going to talk about it. And there's been race issues in it, like normal, because there's always race issues now. And so we're just going to talk about that. So let's jump right in. And like I said, we're using the CNN article. The title is Here's What We Know About the Boulder, Colorado Mass Shooting Suspect by Ray Sanchez, Paul Murphy, Blake Ellis, and Amir Vera. CNN. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so Ahmad Al Alawi Alisa, I believe is I
That's
pronounced
how
that
you yeah.
pretty solidly.
It's pretty good.
Was identified by authorities Tuesday as the gunman who opened fire at King Soopers grocery store in Colorado, killing 10 people, including a Boulder police officer. So, 9 civilians, 1 police officer. They're all white, by the way. That will become relevant in a little bit, but keep that in mind. The weapon used in the attack was an AR-15 style pistol modified with an arm brace, according to the source. So people think that thought it was an AR-15, but it was actually a legally modified pistol with the brace, like I said.
Yeah.
A senior law enforcement source told CNN on condition of anonymity the shooter used a Ruger AR-556 pistol modified with an arm brace and was also carrying a 9mm handgun, according to the source. So as you can see, um, this is how the entire thing came up as far as gun control. Um, the controversy of modified pistols is coming up right now. That's gonna get heated soon, I'm sure.
Yeah, there's gonna be a lot of stuff floating around about I
Yeah.
mean, yeah. It's hard. It's really, really hard when you have mass shootings like these to I don't wanna say defend, Second Amendment rights, right? But it's hard to have it to where, like, citizens have freedom, with their weapons, right?
Mhm.
And stuff like that. So when things like this happen, it makes it very, very hard to, um, defend that opinion, right?
Yeah. So the article says that he lived most of his life in the United States. And then his brother talked to CNN, and this is kind of what he went over. He said, the article says, Elisa, whose family immigrated from Syria, may have been suffering from mental illness, according to his 34-year-old brother, Ali Iowi Elisa. Um, the brother told CNN on Tuesday that his high school bullies made fun of Lisa's name and for being Muslim and may have contributed to being him becoming antisocial. So there was a lot of things, and it developed more as it older too. Elisa had become increasingly paranoid around 2014, believing he was being followed and chased, according to his brother. At one point, the young man covered his camera on his computer with duct tape so he could be seen. So he could not be seen, said the brother who lives with Lisa. So that's kind of an odd point to bring up for being paranoid. But there's some more stuff that legitimizes it more. But a lot of people do cover up their cameras. Um, that's not an uncommon thing. So if you're just using that, that's not a great piece of evidence.
Yeah.
But this is where it gets a little bit more interesting. We kept a close eye on him when he was at high school. He would say, "Someone is chasing me. Someone is investigating me," and we're like, "Come on, man. There's nothing." He was just closing into himself. The brother added. So his brother said that. Elisa's Facebook page, the authenticity of which was confirmed by his brother and a high school classmate, shows posts saying he believed his former high school had been hacking into his phone. So this is where it does get a little odd. Just curious, what are the new laws about phone privacy? Because I believe my old school, A West, was hacking my phone. Elisa wrote on March 18th, 2019, Facebook post. Made a second post on July 5th, 2019, also claiming that people are hacking his phone, saying, let me have a normal life. I probably could." So this is where it also gets odd because they put this in. When his Facebook friends questioned him how he knew the school was hacking his phone, Lisa said, "I believe part racism for sure, but I also believe someone spread rumors about me which are false, and maybe that set it off." So it's so frustrating when articles like this, they're saying that he's saying because it was racist and that they're tracking his phone. So actually, believe it or not, uh, schools, at least I know private schools can. I'm not entirely sure about public schools, but if you log into their Wi-Fi, the school can access anything that's on your phone.
Yeah, they can actually put blocks on, like, internet access and
Hmm.
everything like
But
that,
they can
so
access your phone
but
itself
yeah,
too.
they yeah.
So if he was referring to that, um, technically that's legal, and technically they can do that. Uh, did you know if high school or if public schools could do that? They can do that. I know private
Um,
schools can.
yeah, private schools can for sure, mine did. Um, I'm not quite sure about public high schools. For anyone that's listening, you guys can DM us, tell us if you like had that for you guys. But I mean, I would probably assume that they have somewhat
I would assume
control,
too.
right? Or some kind of like I guess overseeing, right? I don't know. I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, so that was kinda odd. I hate when they blame it on racism. What it sounds like, because you said, because I also believe someone spread rumors about me which are false, and maybe that set it off. What it sounds like is some idiot kid made, a joke or a not funny joke or prank, uh, probably saying that because it had a Muslim name, which apparently he'd been bullied for, that he was probably a terrorist. And someone either probably took that seriously, or it's possible that it never happened before. And um, we're gonna talk about the brother is kind of an odd source because we're gonna hit it again in the
Yeah,
article. There's some contradictions to what is said in the article from what the brother says and from what other people say, and the suspect, the shooter himself, had gotten into some trouble with the law, and so
earlier,
we're
yeah.
gonna talk about that a little bit, but just keep that in mind. He says racism spread rumors about me, so the dude was kind of off a little bit. Um, so here's where it gets kind of weird. Um, Elise was not very political or particularly religious. According to his brother, he said he never heard the young man threaten to use violence. Now, keep that in mind. Keep that part in mind because we're going to come back to that in a second.
Yeah.
Um, the brother talks about the entire thing surprised me. Ali Alisa said of the Monday shootings, I never ever would have thought he would do such a thing. I never thought he would kill. I still can't believe it. I am really sad for the lives that he wasted, and I feel sorry for all those families. We lost a brother, even if he is the killer. So, aside from a knife he used for cooking, Ali Alisa said he did not know his brother to carry any weapons, including a firearm. Sister-in-law kind of talks about some stuff too, but this is what I want to hit on. Um, a little bit later in the article, there's this comment. Elisa was sentenced to 1 year probation and 48 hours of community service after being found guilty on third-degree assault in 2018 for an incident that occurred in previous November, according to the Colorado Bureau of Investigation database. The case stemmed from an incident in which an 18-year-old Elisa was accused of attacking a classmate in Arvada West High School. A report from a police officer included in the case file says Elisa got up in a classroom, walked over to the victim, and cold cocked him in the head. Elisa got on top of the victim and punched him in the head several more times. The report says, adding that the victim had bruising, swelling, and cuts to the head as well as pain. No witnesses could see or hear any reason for the attack, and Elisa said the victim had made fun of him and called him racial names weeks earlier. So back again. So you're beating him up for something a couple weeks ago because of a racial thing,
Yeah.
right? So a couple contradictions here. Why does this theme of race keep coming up for something that witnesses said there was no instigation, for something that Elisa said, oh, a couple weeks later? So that's odd. But notice this: he was found guilty of assault in 2018. Remember that part I told
Yeah.
you to keep in mind? I'm going to reread this part. Elisa, according to his brother right here, Elisa was not very political or particularly religious, according to his brother, who said he never heard the young man threaten to use violence.
Right. Yeah,
But
that's a little bit of a contradiction there, but
so there's some weird stuff going on. Now, that could just be because this is a CNN article, and we all know how CNN is. So, kind of odd. I don't know if they're trying to hide something or what, but that's what we know. This is what we know so far. So, things we do know. He was definitely bullied. He was Muslim or from Syria. He was a immigrant or refugee. It didn't say. It didn't say. Did it? Didn't really say which. He'd lived in the United States for most of his life. We know that,
yeah.
and he's found guilty of assault in 2018. Has some mental health problems, right? Um. So just an odd situation. This is still early in what happened because this happened on Tuesday,
Well, it happened Monday actually.
Monday.
Yeah, the
Today's
shooting happened Monday.
Thursday.
Yeah.
Today's Thursday, so it's been 3 days.
Yeah. At least 3 full days,
Yeah.
say past that.
So more things could come out. Maybe, and we've already established that
You
the
might get
brothers
more witnesses coming forward
the
if there was
brothers'
previous stuff
testimony, yeah,
too.
the brothers' testimony is a little odd. Um,
Well, and to be honest, most I mean, most people say that. Most family members say, like, my son or my daughter or whatever would never have done that, right?
yeah.
So or, my sister would have never done that or my brother. So, I can see that a little bit, but you gotta remember about, like, something that happened almost 3 years ago, right, with him previous to this, um, encounter. So, yeah, you have to take that into account that, yeah, not a whole lot of things add up completely
Yeah, so
with his brother witnesses like that.
the story is kind of odd. Um, well, the fact that he was thought he was being investigated is kinda odd too. You know, technically, we can't rule out that it wasn't a terrorist attack at this point
No, we can't.
because obviously off of this, we don't know a whole lot. Technically, this could have been a terrorist attack. It could have been who knows, right? We're gonna find out more later. But we're gonna talk about some of the other stuff that was odd about the case, or not odd, but that came up with it. Um, Again, in the article down at the bottom, they're comparing it to, if you haven't heard, the shooting that happened. That wasn't in Colorado after, or here, I'll just read it real quick. The massacre at the King Superstore occurred less than a week after the shootings at three spas in the Atlanta area left 8 people dead in the past week in the U.S. There have been at least 7 shootings in which at least 4 people were injured or killed. So that's how we're going to move into this. So, for those of you who didn't hear about the Atlanta shootings, a white guy, a white male, went up and shot three spas owned by Asian
Asians.
Yeah, they're owned by Asian. I don't know if they're necessarily women, but he went and shot him up, right?
Yeah.
So, with that happening, the whole thing, as soon as this broke out on Monday, there was a huge thing about race baiting and white supremacy, right?
Mhm.
Because the guy was a weirdo who shot up the Asian spas, total weirdo, and now they go and they assume that, oh, it's a white guy again, right? That's the whole problem behind
Yeah,
this.
there was a lot of people, a lot of famous people, um, blue checks, just remember, on Twitter or whoever. These people, I mean, like I said, a lot of them came out and they were like, "Oh, I bet he's a MAGA hat wearing white person,
Which
right?
is
Who
racist.
supports Trump." So
Racist.
we've seen we've seen that kind of stuff, and I'm not gonna say that it's. I mean, okay, first off, it's wrong to immediately put that like out there like that and say, especially on social media, it's because it's false information, right? You're falsely accusing white people for something for, I mean, violence that didn't happen for this particular time,
Yeah,
right?
well,
So
yeah.
obviously there have been past problems with all kinds of races, right?
Generally, to
So
be fair, I think generally speaking, mass shootings do tend to be white people,
yeah,
but that's just as racist as me going and say, okay, well, most terrorist attacks are Muslim, which they are. To be fair, they are. But if you don't want me to go say most terrorist attacks are from a Muslim, then don't get
yeah,
mad.
then you can't say
Then
that.
you can't go and say, oh well, most mass shootings are from white people. No, same principle applies.
That's what we
If
call
I
a
want to
double
go,
standard.
that exactly, it's called hypocrisy. So choose one or the other. Either you can assume a certain group does it, or you can't, right? And it not doesn't just apply to you; it applies to every situation. That's what's frustrating. So, um, going back to Daily Wire because it's our favorite news source. An opinion piece written by Matt Walsh. Walsh, race baiting media sounds alarm over white violence. Here are the facts they won't tell you. Title of the article. So if we go down here, if you didn't believe us about the people that were posting this, I'm going to cite this. As Kamala Harris's niece, Mina Harris, put in a now deleted tweet, violent white men are the greatest terrorist threats in our country. Um,
That's racist.
just a little bit. So that was nice. Here's another thing. The events of the last few weeks seem to have sparked a renewed conversation about the threat posed by, in the words of a recent USA Today headline, white violence. They're assuming that it's white violence. Despite the fact that the Boulder shooter wasn't even white, though all of his victims were, and lack of evidence that the Atlanta shooter was motivated by race, the emerging narrative is both incidents stem from an alleged panic of white brutality. So, remember when I talked about all the victims were white and that would be important? Well, this is why it's important. This is what we're bringing up, right?
Mhm.
They're automatically assuming that it is a white person. So, double standard, right?
Right.
That's racist. And it's very frustrating, especially as a white man.
And so, okay, to be honest though, for me personally, like you can say whatever you want about white people. It's not okay. I don't care necessarily about like people just coming out and saying like, "Oh, I bet it was a white person." Like, yeah, it's wrong, but for me, it's like, all right, whatever. But that puts a very like false narrative on like the white race, and other people might take it more personally than I would. You can say whatever about you. You know, you can say whatever you want about me being white. I don't care. You can call me whatever. It's just that's how I feel. You can tell me what whoever I am, whatever I am. But for me personally, it's like you can't put out a false narrative
Well,
because that's wrong to me 100%.
yeah,
You just can't
you can blame
come
it.
out and say it's white violence when
Yeah.
clearly not all violence is white,
And,
right?
and you can blame it on me, because he's white. I personally, I'm going to blow you off and say you're a moron. Here's the problem with it. Going back to the article, this is the problem with when you make a racist claim like that. It's reported that increasing numbers of black people are purchasing guns in order to defend themselves against these hordes of white villains. The message from all of this is clear: white people are uniquely dangerous. We are meant to believe, or at least to shut up and pretend we believe, that the white violence is a massive problem in this country and that much of the violence is interracial. That's the problem when you start blaming certain groups for certain crimes.
And that's what I'm saying is you have to stop creating
It
that false
becomes it
narrative,
becomes a
right?
dangerous narrative. Now you're going to get, you know, not that there's anything wrong with black people buying guns, but if you're buying a gun thinking that your life is being threatened
The
by a
white man
white
is gonna
person,
get me, right?
how
It's
yeah, what are the chances that a black person is now going to feel afraid because a white person was just walking and he pulls a gun on somebody um undeservingly, or without a cause, just because the person's white, right?
yeah.
That's the problem. And then now you're going to have all kinds of problems like that, where you're going to have racially motivated self-defenses, air quotes, which was never a problem in the first place. Maybe the person was just like, I don't know, walking his dog, and you think, oh, he's coming after me, pull out a gun and shoot him, right? That's the problem you get when now you're making this whole claim that white people are bad, fear mongering. It becomes dangerous, right? So that's the problem that we create when you start pushing this this white narrative, this white supremacy narrative, right? Um, and it's very dangerous. So we're gonna move in to the other part that has kind of been the emphasis on, or the narrative that's being pushed because of this. Gun control. Democrats are pushing for gun control now because of
Obviously.
this. Because every time there's a shooting, it's the gun's fault, not the person's fault, right?
Yep.
So, um, talk about that a little bit. Again, back to Daily Wire. If you don't believe, which I don't know how you cannot believe, that Democrats always use a gun situation, some kind of shooting, some kind of tragedy, and use it to push for gun control, here it is. Back to
It's a
Daily Wire.
okay, and it's a great strategy, a great tactic too, because
You're playing off of emotion, not logic.
exactly. A lot of people come off these things emotional, and it is emotional. Like
It should be. I would hope you
life
would
is
have,
precious,
yeah.
right? And I obviously, am sad that 10 people died in that shooting, and
And then that eight
I
died
pray
in
for
the other
those
shooting.
right, exactly, and I pray for those families, and I wish them all the best, right? So, but you can't be emotional to the point where now you take everyone else's rights away, right?
Yeah.
To where you just completely because we're on the fence. We're on the fence with the Second Amendment. It's only a matter of time before that gets pulled.
Hmm.
So just remember that instead of playing into this emotional trap, right? Of we need to take guns away. We need to limit guns. We need to limit who can have guns. You're gonna have problems, and honestly, you're gonna have more shootings
Yeah,
and more people dead.
and I don't think we should go super deep into the whole gun control argument
Yeah, we can
today.
talk about that
I think
another
we
time.
should save that for another
Yeah.
episode. I wanna talk about, the push to take away guns. Um, I wanna touch a l we'll touch a little bit on kinda like why guns are important. Um, just the basic argument for kind of, why guns are important, you know? So we're gonna talk about that, but let's talk about first how Democrats always try and use these kinds of horrific situations to push their agenda. Because that's what it is. It's just pushing their agenda. You think they really care about the victims? No, they want to push their agenda. Okay. So, Daily Wire article Biden appears to admit his crackdown on Second Amendment is all about timing when a shooting happens. Let's see. Democrat President Joe Biden appeared to admit during Thursday's press conference that his crackdown on Second Amendment rights is all about timing, end quotes. A comment that gun advocates said were a reference to aligning his actions with tragedies like Monday's mass shooting in Boulder, Colorado. So, uh, going back, kind of talking about how they're using this. Going back to the article. Wondering if you've made a decision either about sending the manufacturer liability bill they've promised on day one to Capitol Hill, left wing reporter Justin Sink asked, or executive actions like going after ghost guns is giving or giving money to citizen states in battle gun control. Uh, all the above, Biden responded. It's a matter of timing. You've all observed successful presidents better than me have been successful in large part because they know how to time what they're doing, order it, decide the priorities, what needs to be done. So, I mean, it doesn't get much more obvious than that. So basically, the reporter asks, "Are you going to be sending, gun control bills to Capitol Hill, signing them off, that kind of stuff?" And Biden just said, "Yeah, we're going to do it. We're just waiting for good times." They want an incident to happen. They're waiting for it.
Yep.
You know, call me conspiracy theorist, but I feel like, and this is just speculation, but I feel like honestly that some of these mass shootings and some of these horrific tragedies are caused by politicians who want to push an agenda. I mean,
I don't think that's far out. I don't think that's too far
I
fetched.
mean, how hard is it? You go and you pay a guy or you promise him this and that, or you just manipulate somebody. It doesn't even have to be paid. You go and you find a very mentally ill person.
Yep.
You
Yep.
manipulate them and you find a way to manipulate to find a person who needs help and push them just enough that they'll do what you want them to do without them thinking about the consequences, without them knowing exactly what they're doing and think about the consequences because those people are not hard to find. You know,
Yeah, or they'll say, "We'll try to shorten your sentence," or something. I don't know. I
I'm
will.
conspiracy theory. 100%. I understand it. It, but it does feel like that. It feels very, when you sit here and say it's a matter of timing.
Yep,
Why wait?
exactly.
You want it to happen. Why take risks?
You should be proactive, not reactive, right? To
Yeah, and
these.
think and if you think that's a horrible thing, so no person is that evil and would ever do that. Don't forget that the Clintons' name was on Jeffrey Epstein's
Yeah,
flight log.
let's not also forget that it's not just the politicians that are sitting in these seats, you know, in in power that are actually making the moves. There's people behind the scenes that are causing that maybe they have dirt on them, maybe they have this on them, right? And they
Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself.
right. And so you are able to force them or blackmail someone
Oh,
to
blackmail,
do
there you
this,
go,
right?
that's huge. We
So
know that happens, we know that from Epstein.
blackmailing happens all the time. And so I wouldn't say that's too far fetched for that conspiracy
Yeah,
Christian at all.
if you think that that's far-fetched, just take a little look at Epstein Island and all the horrible things that were done there,
I mean,
and all the people that were involved,
here's
and
a little thing that they call a conspiracy, why do you think all these people that worked for the Clintons and leaked small bits of information are now dead?
Yeah.
Killed themselves, right? Or hung
Yeah,
themselves.
yeah, and I don't wanna sound I don't wanna sound like a conspiracy theorist, I don't wanna sound like, uneducated, but, you know, if there are things happening, open your eyes, everything that happened with Epstein has been should have been a wake-up call that, "Oh, maybe some messed up things are happening," because we know for a fact the Clintons have been heavily involved with Epstein. We know for a fact Epstein was a huge pedophile. We know everybody who basically, um, went with Epstein was not good people, right? We know that.
Right. Well,
Why if they're into pedophilia, that's as evil as it gets. Why? It's way easier to just have someone, you know, to have someone kill another person than it is to go and freaking be a pedophile. I mean, change my mind.
right. And it's just like a lot of other things. There's a lot more underneath the surface, right? You see a lot of things on the surface level and you think you have all the information that you need, but there's really more to the story than you really think. So, who knows? This could be something that has to be a political push behind it. I'm not saying there is. Christian's not saying there is, but you can always question that, right?
Yeah,
Always ask question what you read, question what you see.
like we always say, question everything. Never believe anything at face value. Never believe what we're saying at face value. Never just take our word for it. We're trying to use these articles and stuff to show that we have legitimacy to what we're saying, but it's up to you to go and find that and to think for yourself, right? So, um, last kind of point we're going to hit on right here. We're going to talk about the Boulder officer. Um, rest in peace. Let me quote the article real quick. Daily Wire again. Fallen Boulder police officer would have been deeply offended at being used to advocate for gun control, family says. Boulder officer Boulder police officer Eric Talley would have been deeply offended to know that his death was being used to push for stricter gun control measures, his father told TMZ in an interview on Thursday. Um, you know,
How old was Tally?
he
He wasn't
was
the oldest. I think he was like 50 something, right?
he was 51.
51, yeah.
Talley was one of 10 people killed in mass shootings took place in King Super's grocery store in Boulder, Colorado on Monday. According to CNN, 51-year-old father of 7, impressive, was the first Boulder police officer to respond to a call of shots fired. He is the first Boulder police officer fall in the line of duty in nearly 30 years. God bless him. Um, that's him. That's American hero right there.
Yep.
Um, his father told the entertainment news outlet, however, that Talley would have been shocked to know that his death was being used by federal legislators, even the president, to push for greater restrictions on guns, and that his son was a supporter of the Second Amendment rights and owned his own AR-15.
Let's go.
America. America. Uh, the father quoted, "My son would have been deeply offended to know his death would be used to promote gun control. Before he was an officer, he enjoyed shooting." Homer Talley told TMZ.
You get the point. You get
Yeah,
the point. Yeah, like we said before, these things are used to push for stricter gun control, and it's every single time, right? And they use emotional waves to get what they want. So, yeah, like I fully agree with the family. Like I would be offended.
well, I wanna touch on this real quick because I feel like this is very important.
Yeah, it is.
So going back to what the dad said, just because some wacko goes around shooting people doesn't mean guns need to be taken away. You can't take away enough guns to protect this country. Tally added, to take away the freedom completely is something I am against and my son was against. Tally later added that he is coming to terms with his son's death and working to forgive his attacker. That's powerful. Now, listen to what he says here. My family, and my son are people of faith. We understand forgiveness, and that is necessary for not just the shooter, but for ourselves, he said. Um, you know, that's huge. That's a very difficult thing to have to go through. To forgive the person who murdered your son and 9 other people.
Yep. Yeah.
That's not something that you can do on your own, and he talks about we're people of faith. Um, so I'm assuming that would mean Christianity because, um, what other religion preaches about forgiveness, for loving your
To that
enemies,
extent, right?
living
Yeah,
your yeah.
extent.
I know Islam would be like revenge. I don't know about. I'm not really sure about like Judaism wouldn't be like that. I don't know about Seventh Day Adventists, or that's a Christian sect, but Mormons, that kind of thing. So that's a very difficult thing. Keep him in your prayers. Keep his family in your prayers for sure. But that's kind of what we want to talk about. Jared, let's kind of, as we finish it up, let's talk about just common sense arguments on why people are the problem and not guns. So,
Well, okay, so here's a great one. Like, you know, let's say you run someone over with your car, right? And you kill them. You're gonna ban all cars now?
exactly.
Someone kills someone with a fork, are you gonna ban all forks? I know it sounds ridiculous, but it's like that's the same, parallel really to gun controls.
Well,
It's not the thing in that person's hands
there was
that's
that
killing them,
terrorist
right?
attack in the UK. Oh, probably 4 or 5, 6 years ago, where the guy had a trash truck and just drove through
Oh
crowded
yeah,
people.
yeah.
Anything is a weapon if you make it a weapon. It
Yeah.
doesn't have to be guns.
Yeah, it's not just guns. And I mean, I think in Europe too, or England, or yeah, in England they banned knives too. It's like
Possibly.
they
I
put
know they
out
banned
something to,
guns.
well, I think they tried to ban knives too or something like that. But the common sense argument is obviously everything's a weapon. So it's
My
just,
laptop is a weapon if I make it a weapon.
I mean,
Hit
yeah,
Jared over the
exactly.
head
You
with it.
could, well, yeah, please don't do that.
Hey, wait. Oh, have you seen The Dark Knight?
Uh
You want
Parts
to
of
see
it.
a magic trick? A pencil is a deadly weapon.
I mean, yeah, if you've seen John Wick, all right? You can literally kill people with a pencil. So,
No, wait. Did you see that part of the in The Dark Knight though? He
I know that
sticks
quote.
he sticks a pencil, he smashes it into the desk, and he says, "You want to see a magic trick?" And when the guard comes up, and he takes the back of the guard's head,
Oh,
smashes it
yeah,
down
yeah,
onto the
yeah.
table, and
Yeah.
the pencil's gone with his head.
Yeah.
So, like we said, anything could be a weapon. Keep going.
So,
Sorry, that's
that's
kind of
just,
gruesome,
well,
but
no, I mean, but you're right. Anything can be used as a weapon, and it's unfair to take away everyone else's right, right? Everyone else's American right, freedom to have and own a gun, and take that away from everyone just because someone else did something to someone else, right? So,
break that down a little bit more because
yeah,
that
yeah,
was a
yeah.
lot of
Yeah,
someone
that was
else's
a
to
lot of
someone
someone
else's.
else's. But what I guess what I'm trying to say, short, here we go, right here. The short and sweet and simple version of this, okay? You can't just take away guns because someone kills someone with a gun, right?
Yeah.
The murder that kills someone with a gun is a murder. Not the gun did not kill
If
the victim,
yeah,
right?
if the person really, if a murderer really wanted to kill somebody, it doesn't have to be a gun. How many people stab people? How many how many murderers go and drown a person and then get rid of their body? It's very rarely a gun, and especially for as far as ARs are concerned,
Pistols or handguns are more.
I don't think an AR has ever been used in, or an AR-15. An AR-15. I don't think an AR-15 has ever, don't quote me on it. If it has, it's been very small, but I don't think an AR-15 has ever been used for in a murder case,
Attacks like this, right?
or yeah, an attack.
Mass shootings.
And fun fact also, AR-15 is not military grade because it's never been used in war.
It's true.
So
But
just fun fact.
yeah,
I know that one.
you can't just take away someone else's right because someone else violated those rights
Yeah.
by murdering
And,
someone.
and the whole idea behind the argument is, oh, well, if you take away guns, people will save lives, people will be safer. Okay, true, probably true. Well, possibly. Well, yeah, because it was gun related accidental deaths, right? But how many lives would you say save from banning cars? You kind of made this point. You would save lives but it's not very efficient, right? People drive a car for a reason. Going back to the Second Amendment, most people don't know this. Why did the founding fathers include the Second Amendment? Because they wanted to make sure that if the government became tyrannical like the English government that they were under, that they could guarantee that the people would have the arms to overthrow it.
Necessary.
It
Yep.
makes the government fear the people instead of the people fear the government. Every time a government has caused tyranny on a people, has dictatorship, has you name it. Whenever a government has become just evil, right? Nazi
Unconstitutional, I guess,
Germany,
right?
Nazi Germany, it's a great example. They always take away the guns first, every time.
Yep. They take away your guns, they change the language,
Mhm.
right? And lastly,
Burn books.
lastly, they mess with gender. No, I'm serious. The if you go back to history, a lot of great kingdoms and I guess yeah, you could say kingdoms, but or societies that were very wealthy or whatever, they eventually destroyed themselves, and the one thing that destroyed them was because of gender. And because they messed with gender, they did cross dressing, they did this, they did this, they messed with pedophilia, they did all these things.
Oh,
And that's what killed them, killed these
well, did
great societies and kingdoms from the inside out.
did
You
did
can look it up.
where do I look that up at?
Well, I mean, you can go on the internet. I don't,
Did
I mean,
it
you can
cause
find it.
self-destruction or did it cause God's judgment?
It wasn't, I mean, you could say that it was God's judgment
You know,
as self-destruction,
because if you
but
have, and I don't know this for sure. Like I've never heard what you said before, so I'm just giving a little bit of pushback.
yeah.
Um, I've never heard of a society fail. Well, actually, I take that back because I was gonna say I've never heard of a society fail just because I was gonna say everyone is gay, but that would make sense because you couldn't have any kids, so then your it would collapse from the inside because you wouldn't have kids. But um, well, the example I'm thinking of was the Spartans, right? Sparta.
Hmm.
They were very sexually immoral, but and they didn't produce a lot of kids and citizens. But the reason that they failed wasn't necessarily because they were sexually promiscuous. Um, Homosexuality was rampant. You guys want to talk about some nasty stuff, dude? Study the Spartans; those guys were whack. But
Great warriors, though.
yeah, but geez, well,
Wait,
this kind
another
of
time. We can talk about it another time.
well, I gotta point this out real quick. Kind of gross. The ideal relationship in Sparta would have been an older man with a younger man. So what the Spartans believed, well, what the Spartans pushed was that they pushed for homosexual relationships within the armies because the higher up generals thought that it would make them fight harder
Uh,
for uh for their fellow soldiers because they had a special bond. True story. That's a fact. It's kind of gross, but it is true. It's for the Spartans. Ancient Spartans used to have mm, what's a kind way of saying that? Ancient Spartans used to sleep with each other. The soldiers would sleep with each other, and it was encouraged because that would create a stronger bond. That's pretty gross, but
yeah.
um, that's a fact. But
But I mean, I'm not saying that's how necessarily Sparta fell or whatever, but um, yeah, I I had seen I can't remember where I saw it probably like a year ago where um one of the main things why societies fall is due to like I mean I know we're not talking about gender necessarily on this episode, but um we're kind of referencing this to America because this is where we're going towards,
you
right?
start
If
to
you take
blur
away this, you
blur
take
gender
away
lines.
this, right? You blur the gender lines, you start to lose your morality
hmm
for one, but you become disoriented and it eventually crumbles and you fall apart,
I
right?
I I would 100% agree with that without studying it. From the fact that God would judge that nation for their immorality, and which would result in destruction. Like I said, I haven't studied it, so you could be. I mean, I don't know, but I would
I'll
say
put something on our,
yeah,
Instagram
yeah,
on it.
find something.
I'll find it.
I 100% agree with that, just in a different way, right? So you're saying that it's directly correlated to the reason that fell. I would say that it
From a societal standpoint, it destroys most of them. Whether that is a God judgment, it could be, but I'm not necessarily sure.
okay.
I mean, you know Sodom and Gomorrah, but
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. But okay, we got off topic a little bit more. Let me go back. Let me finish my point about
yeah.
the government taking away guns, why the Second Amendment was written, and then we'll wrap it up unless you have anything else you want to add. So, Second Amendment was written, like I said, to prevent the government from taking away the people's weapons in case the people need to revolt against a tyrannical government, right? We talked about Nazi Germany, um, ancient Israel, same thing happened when they're fighting the Philistines, fun fact. So, when the Jews were fighting Philistines at the time of David and Goliath, right? The Jews were not fighting with swords and stuff. They were mostly farming tools, and which was a huge reason why they were fighting. And David's victory was huge because the Philistines kind of had control over the Jews at the time, and they took away all their weapons. So look back at history. Anytime the government takes away guns, tyranny results. Right. That's why we have the Second Amendment. Okay. So what does that mean? That means guns are the mark of a free nation. If you have weapons, then you are truly free. And the founder fathers knew that. That's one of the reasons why they added it. Now, what cracks me up, kind of, that is, kind of makes me mad too. Think about all the people who are, for revolts, pro-Palestinian people, anti-guns, or the people that say, we should pull out of Iraq, and that, or like that the people of Iraq should, have all this stuff. If we got to that point, or not if we got to that point, but I bet you that the people who are for Palestine or the Iraqis, that type of stuff, I bet they absolutely love that those people have guns in their hands, right? Because they're able to defend themselves, right?
Mhm.
From what they view as the US being a tyrannical government. So if you think that the Iraqis or the Palestinians should be able to have weapons to defend themselves against evil governments, whether it's Israel in your view, Israel or the U.S. being tyrannical, then shouldn't you want your own gun? Because those people are fighting against the U.S. and from Israel who are tyrannical. You're living in that country that you think is tyrannical. Wouldn't you want a gun to protect yourself from these horrible governments that everyone talks about? I mean,
Yeah, I definitely would.
I would. So I don't understand why these people are so anti-gun because I mean logically, especially for like all this Black Lives Matter stuff. I mean, change my mind, but they're trying to overthrow the system,
Yep.
right?
I agree.
Isn't the best way to overthrow the system with an armed revolt? Revolt. Look at go back in history. Go look. How do you take over a government? You overthrow them with violence, with weapons, right? You don't just go and you know, be nice. Then next thing you know, the government's completely changed, right? So that's what doesn't make sense to me is why are you fighting to take away the guns from the common people, but you support rebels and other nations fighting against what you view as a tyrannical government? That's literally the reason that we had the Second Amendment. So I don't know. I don't understand that point. Like, why would you fight? Now, I understand why politicians want to take away your guns because they want to be that tyrannical government. They want to have control over your life, right?
Yep.
Even if you don't like guns, you should still want people to have guns because it creates individuality. It creates a healthy fear in politicians of over what their policies are going to be. You know, I'm not going to create a policy so bad that I know that people will show up to the Capitol building and riot, right? I'm not going to take away your guns if I know that they're going to come and they're going to march the Capitol, right? And
Yep.
there's a healthy fear and there's an unhealthy fear, right? because there's a point where like, oh well, tax increase, a good tax increase, like I don't know, think of a good reason why taxes should go up. I don't know, maybe something stupid, right? So that would be an unhealthy fear, right? But there's a healthy fear of, maybe if I take away their freedom of religion, maybe that's a bad idea because they'll come in after me. They'll come after the government, right? They
Yep.
should be afraid of that because there are certain rights that are inalienable. That's what the guns are for. Those guns are protect the inalienable rights.
Yep. Gotta
And
be on
that
your
is
toes.
why we have guns. Those are just a couple common sense arguments. Probably went deeper than we were planning.
That's about it.
But I think that is all I have. It's all Jared has.
Yeah, I don't really have anything else to say. Um, yeah, it's just the common thing. If you were saying like if you're not particularly for guns, you shouldn't be like and hate everyone else that is for guns, right? So
Yeah.
if you're anti-gun, that's cool. That's your opinion, and I leave you to that. You can hold that opinion, but
That's the
don't
great
take
thing
away
about
my right
America is you
either.
don't have to have a
It's
gun if you
like
don't want
it's
it.
like vegans saying I'm vegan and you shouldn't eat meat. You're a terrible person. That's stupid. No, I
They do
deserve
say
to
that
eat
though.
meat. I know, but I deserve to eat meat. If you want to be vegan, you can be
Yeah,
vegan.
it's cool,
You don't
whatever.
have to eat meat, but I like my meat,
Yeah.
medium rare. Okay,
Yeah.
there you go.
Yep. Good point. Thank you guys for listening. Like we said at the beginning, we're gonna try and get episodes out as much as possible. Unfortunately, this part of the spring semester is really busy. Me being a student athlete, Jared with work and other stuff. I practice 6 days a week. Games are starting, so um,
We'll try to get them out for you.
yeah, we're gonna get them out as much as possible. But we hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Follow us on Instagram. Uh, all the good stuff. Comment on anything. Let us know about future topics. See you guys later.